Hello again, friends and patrons of the Library Film Series. Greetings once again to the staff of the library. I always want to stop a moment and thank the staff and my wife Glenda for her research on these films, and also then for her assistance and for the library's generosity in bringing these wonderful programs and so many others to you through the years. So after 14 years of talking to you, here I am talking to you on Waupaca, Wisconsin, ready to go, thanks to the miracles of modern technology and the cooperation of the Waupaca Area Public Library, particularly Patsy Servey, Joni Radley, Laura Jandacek, and their new director, Eric Bailey, and all the staff. Okay, having said that, today's movie is The Thin Man with Myrna Loy and William Powell. In 1933-34, the novel had already been published a couple of years earlier, Dashiell Hammett, The Thin Man. A very good pedigree. Hammett also wrote like The Maltese Falcon and other famous novels that became well-known films. Okay, so they got excited about this property and thought maybe they could decide on a way to use it. They bought the rights and they decided to have Myrna Loy, who was under contract to them, and their rising star William Powell, who had been around since the 20s, but was now fast becoming a rebounder, and a really great. It was ahead of his success 5 years later in Gone with the Wind, and a year later after it happened one night, a year or two. And so guess what? This little movie that MGM decided to bankroll in black and white became an Academy Award nominee for Best Picture. It didn't win, but there it was. It became an Academy Award nominee for the performance of William Powell as Dashiell Hammett's dashing figure. It performed at the box office in every way, outperformed all characteristics. In those days, if you spent $800,000 on a movie, as opposed to the millions these days, and you took in 2 or 3 million, you had made what was a lot of money in those days by today's dollars. So they were busily raking in the money. There would be 5 sequels in the Thin Man series, dating all the way to 1945, with Song of the Thin Man. So let's get going on a couple of things here. First, you would notice 3 things, all right? Notice in this movie, number 1, the chemistry that is evident between William Powell and Myrna Loy. Now, you remember, I've never been a fan of excess drinking, and never would be, but you will remember that part of the humor in 1934-35 that came across to people, these rich people, William Powell and Myrna Loy, independent means, but he liked to tinker with cases, and it was 1934, America was in the depths of the Depression. So what you need to look for first and foremost, the chemistry between them, and an allied point, how beautifully MGM supported everything with a humorous, star-studded cast of character actors that were really right in there. Sam Levine, Nat Pendleton, Minna Gombell, Maureen O'Sullivan, I believe. I'd have to check my notes. But at any rate, I think you'll enjoy it, and you'll enjoy the way MGM supported them. Even though this movie was in black and white, it's the best of the black and white thrillers. So the chemistry together with the support from MGM, which played into that chemistry. The second thing to look for is, who is the murderer? You know right well this is going to be a murder mystery. Well, as a hint, and you probably know this already if you've done any reading, the Thin Man is the name of the victim. Victim, played by Edward Ellis. He's a research scientist who disappears early in the movie. That was an interesting gambit, because that's true also in the novel. But what happened was people attached it to William Powell's character instead. You know how you'll see something sometimes, oh, there's Dr. Frankenstein. Well, it's Frankenstein's monster. And little kids begin to say Frankenstein, not thinking to say monster, and they believe that Frankenstein is the Boris Karloff running around kind of guy. But no, the truth is it's really the Dr. Frankenstein and his monster. Well, similar to that, people decided they were going to call this The Thin Man, and the next 5 movies had that name in the title. The Thin Man Goes Home, Song of the Thin Man, etc. So you ask yourself, who is the murderer? Now, one of the great things about a good murder mystery, do you know this, is that we are told the clues well in advance. But as the great writer Dorothy L. Sayers, herself a religious and mystery critic, wrote one time, and a writer of her own novels like Gaudy Night and Busman's Honeymoon, you know, she said, the characteristic of a good mystery is when the author or movie director can tell the story in such a way that you can say afterward, fair enough, I should have spotted the villain. Why didn't I? Because the clues were there. They were there in front of me, but they came so early that we tended to lose sight of them. And they introduced so many characters that we tended to lose sight of the original suspects. For item number 2, see if you can spot the murderer early, keep it to yourself, and at the end see, aha, that's who it was, I knew it all along. Or you'll say, that's who it was all right, fair enough, as Dorothy Sayers said, fair enough, and fooled you. You'll say, well, I understand that isn't who I thought it would be, but you know what, they played fair with me. A murder mystery, she said, is no good if a last-minute confession shows up, if a character you don't know about comes out of the woodwork, if one of the servants did it, you know, if there's a last-minute revelation that you don't know, like he was right-handed and the killer was left-handed, that's bogus. And even in one novel of the great Earl Durbigger's Charlie Chant, oh, he was colorblind. None of that, she said, that's not fair. You play fair with your audience. So number 2, who do you think did it? Keep it to yourself. At the end of the movie, you can discuss as you exit who it was, why you thought it was, and what the clues were. The third and last thing about the Thin Man would be, what do you think accounts for its enduring popularity, the whole series? Well, you'll say one has already been covered, the Myrna Loy, William Powell chemistry. Yes, but the colorfulness of the little characters, the little people. Nick, you see, had been a detective years ago, and even though he had sent some guys to the slammer, they still respected him, buy him drinks, and so forth. They have a wonderful old time. As I say, I don't go for movies that ask us to overdrink, but the couple is so buoyant and charming that even if they're a little tipsy once in a while, they have wonderful ideas. But it isn't just they. You know, you talk about the background noise. In Hollywood at this time, almost every actor or actress used in a movie like this would be from the MGM studio system. They would be well known, and so some people would go in and say, well, Minna Gombell has always looked suspicious to me, or there's that shifty-eyed Nat Pendleton, or Cesar Romero, or all of these wonderful people who are in the movie. And as you go through the movie, say to yourself, this appealed because it was funny. And we're in the second film and the films that make us happy. This one succeeds in every way, right down to the last line. And my final point, one of those performers is Asta the dog. What a wonderful little actor. Asta appears in so many scenes, including, spoiler alert, at the very finale when William Powell and Myrna Loy are on a train bound for San Francisco, and Asta's with them in the Pullman car. And as they get ready to go to bed for the night and say their goodbyes, they say, good night, Asta, and put him up in the upper bunk. And then they turn off the lights, and just as they turn off the lights, the last shot is Asta covering his eyes for what he knows is going on. Okay, thank you so much. I hope you enjoy it as much as I enjoy talking about it. The Thin Man from 1934. This movie does have a roll of cast credits at the conclusion. Please stay for that. Thank you again.